I'm scared for the accessibility at Xbox. Hi, I'm Steve Saylor. I'm an accessibility consultant in the video game industry, and this video is a stream of consciousness. It's been a conversation I've been having in my head for the past 2 days now, and I just need to kind of get my thoughts out there. The reason why I'm scared for the accessibility of Xbox, if you haven't heard the news, there has been leaks and rumors that Xbox is looking to close at least what's being currently discussed in the open, 3 studios: Compulsion Games, Ninja Theory, and Double Fine. 3 studios that have delivered games that probably wouldn't be seen as necessarily a commercial success. In some cases, definitely a critical success, including Compulsion Games winning a lot of awards, including a Peabody Award for Best Writing. And with Ninja Theory creating probably one of the most gorgeous looking games that we've had with the Hellblade series. Double Fine with its very avant-garde, abstract, like artistic games in Keeper and Kiln, and that's just within the past few years. But Xbox is looking to close those studios or potentially at least have massive layoffs across their entire portfolio. We don't know what the damage will be because it hasn't been officially announced yet or hasn't officially come out yet. Ninja Theory is supposedly closed down. Not sure. I keep seeing reports of it is closed, it's not closed. I don't know. Even after they just announced a brand new game, as of this recording, 11 days ago. I'm not talking years ago. We're talking days ago. They just announced a new game. And there's a story that apparently leadership had known that they were going to shut down Ninja Theory and had hoped that the announcement of a new game could bring in other buyers to buy the studio instead of having to close it. And the reason why I'm scared for the accessibility at Xbox is because those 3 studios have started to make a concerted effort to include accessibility as part of their design process. With Ninja Theory, they really went into, with Hellblade 2, they really added quite a bit of accessibility. It was the first time they ever really adapted accessibility into their workflow. Wasn't necessarily the best accessibility overall. It didn't have full accessibility, but they at least were trying. Double Fine is with Keeper and with Kiln. They have really actually adopted the idea of making accessible games, and basically Keeper being one of my favorite games of playing this year because of the accessibility that was there. Compulsion Games had probably the most amount of accessibility in South of Midnight, including the ability to be able to, if you just wanted to play the story of the game and not worry about the combat, and you could just platform your way through the game, that's cool too. And that's part of the accessibility offerings. They also offered a ton of accessibility in there. And if those studios close, that's accessibility knowledge that is lost. It takes a long time to build up a culture of accessibility. Xbox has been trying to build up that culture for the past basically 10 years. And they have really tried to be able to adopt accessibility in a lot of ways, including adding accessibility on their platform, on their services, having testing like capabilities for their games to be able to get reports back on how accessible the game is and basically give them direct player feedback on their games. I know because I've gotten to do some of those. And they really adopted the idea of the framework that we use today in the accessibility field is gaming for everyone. That kind of was really a phrase that was adopted for accessibility, in that they wanted gaming available to everyone, including people with disabilities. And when I talk about the knowledge that is lost, those are processes, those are knowledge, those are technical skills that if a studio closes, gets lost. Like, there's a technical aspect to accessibility, learning how to be able to include it into design, into art, like art tech, into environmental architecture, into engines, into processes, like learning how to be able to do accessibility, getting those processes approved by management. It really does take a huge team effort beyond just one single person handling accessibility at a studio. And it really takes a team effort to make a game accessible. So many departments have to talk to each other to be able to make a game accessible. It's beyond just one person basically working on the code and then that's it. It's very rarely it's a one person job, especially in a AAA or even a AA standpoint. You could sort of see that in indie, but usually your team is a lot more nimble because of how small you are, and you're able to basically have those processes in place because it's just one person working on it. But in like a AAA/AA sort of field, there's so many departments, there's so many aspects of accessibility that needs to be taken into account in order to be able to get accessibility into a game. And when you close that studio, that knowledge is gone. That teamwork, that camaraderie, that collaboration between the team of how to be able to include accessibility, basically building up accessibility champions within other teams to be able to keep an eye out for everything that is accessible in the game, for all the features, all the design implementation, all the testing that needs to be done. All of that working together and collaborative knowledge is gone. You can't build that back up again. And with the way that the industry is, some of those folks would potentially might even leave the industry altogether. And that's expertise that's lost. And when you close those three studios who started to actively make a concerted effort for accessibility, you can't just move that accessibility knowledge to a different department, to a different studio. That knowledge has rippling effect. That lost knowledge has a rippling effect across more than just an isolated studio. And to going back to Xbox in general, I don't know what their accessibility plans are. They've kind of backed off a little bit on accessibility. They've built up processes. They've created accessibility game guide for all devs to basically learn how to be able to make their games accessible. They have an accessibility events guidelines for if you want to make your event accessible or make your booth accessible at an event. They have guidelines for that. They've released this information for free, but I don't know if that knowledge is there anymore. There's a brand new department called Gaming for Everyone. I got to see that firsthand at GDC. There was so many there was so many aspects of the department that was in there. There was Black in gaming, there was women in gaming, there was pride in gaming, and then there was also accessibility in gaming, and they're all part of the group of Gaming for Everyone. But I'm scared because accessibility used to be its own department, and now it's part of this group. And because accessibility is such a technical expertise, it's not subjective. It's not, yes, of course, representation is always important. And like inclusivity is always important. But a lot of the other parts of Gaming for Everyone kind of fits into that area. Accessibility is very technical. Yes, it's inclusive. It's inclusive so that all disabled players can play. But accessibility has such a technical aspect that it is part of every department that is in a studio. Going from you have to include, if you want to be able to do the best accessibility, you need to include accessibility in the design phase and pre-production in all departments. And it's such a technical knowledge base that I'm afraid that the more or the less amount of people that are working on it, the quieter our voices are in the room when they need to be. to try to be able to make games more accessible. And the thing is, accessibility at Microsoft, to me, feels more like compliance than necessarily actively worked on. It's just part of the checklist. It's part of the, here's the policies that are in place for accessibility. Problem with checklists and policies is that as soon as you check off that box, immediately gets out of your mind. Immediately is gone. You don't innovate. There's no room for innovation. It's just you get the job done, the checklist, great. Now our game's accessible, out the door. We're done. And that's been my biggest problem with standards of trying to be able to create standards for accessibility, because every game is different. Every game is trying to be able to do something different. Every game, you can't just put a game into a checklist box and, then you're 100% accessible. Case in point, Keeper does not have any subtitles because there's no dialogue. It doesn't need subtitles. But according to a standard, game has to have subtitles. Otherwise, they can't check off that policy that they were able to include the subtitles. But in a game that has zero dialogue, what's the point of having subtitles? So it's stuff like that is just, I'm afraid that the dwindling resources that are potentially like available to other studios, losing 3 studios worth of accessibility knowledge is a massive blow, because a lot of studios within a publisher, whether it's Sony, Xbox, or Nintendo, a lot of them kind of talk to each other. They're like, hey, you did this thing. How did you do it? We want to include that in here. Hey, you have knowledge base in this engine. Can you be able to help us out with this? The Coalition is a good example. They've learned on how to be able to build games in Unreal Engine 5. And you don't think that other studios are using the Coalition to help them be able to create their games in Unreal Engine 5? It's the same with accessibility. We all talk to each other. We all figure out, well, hey, we saw what you did with this. How did you do that? What was the process that you had to do? What did you have to what technical aspect of the engine? What code did you have to do? Like, we all talk. And if you have if those 3 studios are gone, that collaboration is also gone. That knowledge base is gone. I don't know what the future of Xbox accessibility is going to be like. And I'm saying this as someone who has dedicated my life essentially to this platform. Yes, I'm a part of PlayStation. Yes, I kind of cover a lot of games and publishers from across the industry. But the one I've worked with the most probably would be Xbox. I've done paid campaigns for them. I've been given review copies. I've been given review consoles. I've been invited to a lot of events. I know a lot of people at Xbox. I have done work with Xbox. I've consulted on some of their games. I've dedicated a lot of time and personal energy, even just to kind of defend Xbox to a certain degree in some areas. And I don't mean this as sort of like a doom and gloom situation. I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that basically the accessibility efforts will still go forward. But with this news, I don't know what the future of Xbox is going to be like, let alone the future of accessibility at Xbox. And I'm scared. I'm scared that we're sliding backwards in regards to accessibility. Xbox was one of the biggest proponents for accessibility across the industry. When Phil Spencer would go out, he would talk about accessibility openly, publicly. Same with Sarah Bond. Now, I've met Asha Sharma at GDC, and I talked to her about accessibility. I talked to her about the need and the importance of accessibility. And the answer I kind of got back was more or less, she's looking into it. She's still new to the job at the time, because this was back in March. So it was barely a few weeks on the job. And I kind of, it was more of I left that conversation as a wait and see. Right now, the wait and see it's It seems like that accessibility is not a priority. I don't know. I am speaking this from the outside. I don't have any inside knowledge on this. I'm scared for my friends who are working in accessibility, who basically have to kind of put together a lot of programs with duct tape and paper clips. Unless the studio basically picks up a lot of the folks that have left and from these studios and be able to incorporate them into their accessibility knowledge into their games. It's gonna have this, like, closing those studios and potentially more if the news is accurate. This could have a massive rippling effect across the industry. We potentially might be taking a few steps back in accessibility. And I know that probably some folks may say, no, we're still good. We're still working on it. And I hope so. And I hope that's the case. I know I have a lot of friends working across multiple studios, both within platforms and outside. And I really do hope that the accessibility movement that we've been pushing for and seeing them forward momentum over the past 6 years, even longer, 10 years, 15 years, doesn't get pushed back because it's just not a priority anymore, or we're losing these talented developers. I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know what to say. I think I've spoken as much as I can, and I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that my faith in Xbox could be restored. But for right now, I'm just going to keep promoting accessibility as much as I can, because that's the best I can do. Thanks for watching.